If you're a Logic Pro user and you use session players, you probably don't actually know how they work, but I promise it's really quite simple. Let's break it down. Hey, what's up? It's Jon Pike. We are here with another Logic Pro tutorial, and today we're looking at session players. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I really hate Logic. No, I love Logic, but I really hate how deceiving they are with the create new track, because MIDI tracks, pattern tracks, session player tracks, they're all just MIDI tracks. This doesn't exist. This doesn't exist. This is a MIDI preset. This is a MIDI preset. Anyways, today we're going to start by opening up a MIDI track, and we're going to build a session player track, but we don't have to do it through this nonsense, because that is fake. It's not real. So if we open up our instrument track, we can find a patch that we like by opening up the library or by building it ourselves through instrument slots and effect slots. But here we're going to go acoustic drums. Let's say just we click on Brooklyn here in the library. This loads up our patch. It has the instrument, has the effects. This one has no sends. Some patches have sends. I'm going to hit Y to close the library. And then you might be thinking, okay, so this looks like a MIDI track, but where's my little plus button? I want my plus button to make the session player. That's what I'm used to when I open a session player track. Well, that is changeable. We go to our track settings here in the inspector, default region type, session player, and that way we get our nice little plus, boom. There's our session player track, and in the editor we see all the nice controls with the session player. So this is not laid out in a way that to me makes a lot of sense, and I want to just kind of demystify some of how session players really work. So when we open up a session player region, all it's doing is it's generating MIDI. So you can see if we convert it to MIDI, all this is doing is it was playing this through the instrument. So if I had just made an instrument track, loaded up a drum VST or a drum instrument plugin, and then played back this exact MIDI, I would just hear that. And it's not distinct in any way. Like it's laid out in a way that a lot of people think it's different than a MIDI instrument. It's just MIDI. But it generates it in what is actually really cool ways. You can make these like broad strokes creative decisions here in the session player. And it's kind of hierarchical is the way to look at it, because a lot of people just move knobs, select things, not really understanding what they're changing when they're changing it. But let's break it down how a session player region works. So the moment you pull this up, the first decision you have to make is the type of session player you're working with. And you can change that here in the editor by clicking here. And we've got our type. Now, session players started with just doing drums, but they've also added bass and keys. But this is the most important decision you're going to make. Is it an acoustic drummer? Is it an electronic drummer? Is it a percussionist? Is it a bass player? Is it a keyboard player? Everything is downstream from that in terms of the MIDI that gets generated for your session player region. This, directly below the type, change patch, this is something that, messes with a lot of people, because the idea here is that when you change the style, these are styles, rock, funk rock, root songwriter. When you change the style, they all have different patch settings, different channel settings, such as the instrument loaded up, the effects, maybe even the sends, that, work for punk rock versus indie pop versus whatever. But if you found a sound that you like and then you're auditioning different styles, sometimes you might not notice that that fine-tuned instrument you made gets changed. So if you want to audition the sounds that Logic thinks work well for funk rock versus retro rock, etc., you can leave change patch on. I like to turn this off when I'm working with people who use session players. I don't like using the session players personally. So I would turn that off. And then when we change our style, it's going to change the way that this MIDI is performed. They have all these complex algorithms built around, I assume, recording players in these styles that generate regions that are going to make sense for, roots brush playing versus indie rock playing. From there, we have our I call them sub-style presets. So you can see here these in the editor for our session player region. We have presets Grand Av, Skinny Tie, and these are per style. You'll notice that right now we're on indie rock, and these are our presets. We can also save our own presets for this style. But if we change the style to pop rock, change session player, all the presets are completely different. So this to me doesn't make it, it's not the way I would have designed it, but it makes sense that each style has its own set of presets. And all these sub-style presets do is change things like the complexity, the intensity, the fill amount, the fill complexity, swing. We've got our hi-hat versus ride versus tom, kicks and snares. All these things kind of in this world, if I were to draw a box, all of these 3 tabs plus the complexity and intensity, all of that is determined by the substyle preset. So let's review it. When we make a session player region, I'm going to delete this, and we can either click the button here, or we can right click by hitting Control click, create session player region. This is what matters. The type, which we can change from here, the type, then the style, which is any of these here. And keeping in mind, are we changing the patch when we select a style? Because changing the patch changes your inspector, changes the instrument. So type, then style, and then we have our detailed substyle settings. And you can even choose a preset for those substyle settings. So if I go paper hearts, all of this stuff is going to change, which changes the MIDI. And that's how session player regions work. It's really confusing to a lot of new people that here in the editor, you can actually change the things in the inspector. And I really hate that about it. To me, goes against the philosophy of the workflow of a program like Logic. And I understand that a lot of new Logic users probably get really thrown off by that, because you wouldn't imagine here in the inspector or the library, if you did something like this, that it would change things here in the tracks or in your MIDI region. That's kind of the comparison. If I go into the library or the inspector, I don't expect my MIDI region to change. So why, when I'm editing my MIDI region, would it change things in the inspector? And so that, to me, really I don't like it. That's one of the reasons I always turn off the change patch. But it's an amazing, it's truly an amazing development that they've just continue to make better over the years. I'll do one more, and we'll try it with like a tonal instrument. So we've got our drums here. If we open up, once again, I'm just opening up from track, new software instrument. We don't need to open up as a session player. We'll go, let's say, to acoustic piano, and maybe grandma's piano. Now I can go and change the default region type, but I don't have to, because I can always right click, create a session player region. Now, grandma's piano, it thinks the drummer is rock, but we can so quickly change that by just clicking here in the editor, keyboard player, turn off change patch. We don't want that. Maybe, I don't know, piano freely, or maybe, yeah, sure. And then from here, we can choose, right? We chose our style. We can change our complexity, our intensity, set presets, right? And now if I solo this, let's hear what it sounds like. Sounds a little crazy. I mean, it's nice. It's beautiful. Awesome. So, but it's really not that complicated. You just got to think about the type, the style, the substyle settings, and then make sure you're keeping track of what's going on in your inspector. Is your instrument getting changed as you're changing the style? So I hope this might have demystified a little bit about how session players work, and most importantly, the number one rule: this and this does not exist. Stop using it. You want to use, everything is just MIDI. There's audio and there's MIDI. There should only be 2 blocks here. All right. All the best. If you got questions, leave them in the comments. I'd love to help you further, expand your creativity. See you in the next one.